I was being brought to set in a wheelchair. Like, I couldn't walk that far. So I had to tell everybody because I needed help. You know, I needed someone to help me stand, and I needed someone to help. I needed someone to help me to get there.
After decades of silence, the actress who played Kelly Bundy has finally opened up about what really happened behind the scenes of Married with Children. The stories she shared were so unexpected, so deeply personal, that even longtime fans of the show never saw this coming. What she exposed changes everything we thought we knew about America's favorite dysfunctional TV family. When Christina Applegate first walked onto the set of Married with Children in 1987, she was just 15 years old. She was a teenager stepping into one of the most controversial sitcoms in television history. The show was edgy, provocative, and pushed every boundary that network television allowed at the time. Right in the middle of all that chaos was a young girl who needed someone to look out for her. That someone turned out to be Ed O'Neill. What most people never realized is that Ed O'Neill took on a role far more important than playing Al Bundy. He became Christina's protector. He became her mentor. In many ways, he became the father figure she needed during one of the most vulnerable times in her life. For 37 years, neither of them ever fully revealed just how deep that bond actually went. Ed O'Neill was in his early 40s when the show started. He had been through the ups and downs of Hollywood. He understood what this industry could do to young people, especially young women who were suddenly thrust into the spotlight. Christina was playing Kelly Bundy, a character who was written as a teenage sex symbol. The jokes about Kelly were often suggestive, the outfits were revealing, and the attention from fans and media could have easily gone to dark places. But Ed made sure that never happened. In rare interviews that most fans have never seen, Christina has talked about how Ed would shield her from certain conversations on set. He would step in when things got too adult. He would make sure that even though the show was pushing boundaries, the actual environment around Christina remained safe and professional. This was not something he was required to do, nor was it part of his job description. This was Ed O'Neill choosing to be a genuinely good human being. Christina spent 11 years on that set, going from 15 to 26 during the show's run. Those are the years when a person forms their entire identity. Those are the years that shape who you become as an adult. Christina has admitted that Ed's presence during those years fundamentally changed who she is today. The crew members who worked on Married with Children have shared stories over the years about watching this relationship develop. They would see Ed pull Christina aside between takes to check on her. They would notice him positioning himself near her during difficult scenes. They would watch as he quietly redirected conversations when they started heading in inappropriate directions around the young actress. This was not just acting. This was genuine care. There were moments that the cameras never captured. Times when Ed would drive Christina home after late-night shoots because he did not want her traveling alone. Times when he would call her mother to reassure her that her daughter was being looked after. Times when he would stand up to producers who wanted to push Christina into situations that made her uncomfortable. What makes their connection even more remarkable is how it evolved over time. In the early years, it was clearly a mentor and student relationship. Ed had the experience and Christina had the talent. But as the years went on, their dynamic shifted. Christina became more confident. She found her voice. And Ed watched with pride as the teenager he had taken under his wing transformed into a powerhouse performer in her own right. By the final seasons of Married with Children, Christina was no longer just following Ed's lead. She was holding her own. She was bringing ideas to the table. She was contributing to the creative process in ways that surprised even the most experienced members of the production team. And Ed could not have been prouder. And now, decades later, Christina has finally started revealing the full extent of what Ed meant to her during those formative years. But this secret bond was just the beginning of their story, because what happened when the cameras stopped rolling was even more remarkable than what happened in front of them. In 1989, something happened that threatened to destroy Married with Children completely. A woman named Terry R.A. Colta from Michigan watched an episode called Her Cups Runneth Over and was so outraged that she launched a full-scale boycott campaign against the show. She contacted major advertisers, wrote letters, and appeared on news programs. She was determined to get Married with Children canceled, and at first, her campaign worked. Coca-Cola pulled its advertising. McDonald's withdrew its support. Dozens of other major companies followed. The network was panicking. Executives were holding emergency meetings, and there were real conversations about ending the show right then and there. The situation felt hopeless. For Christina, this was terrifying. She was only 17 years old. The show was her entire career and everything she had worked for. Suddenly, it looked like it could all disappear because one woman in Michigan did not like what she saw on television. The uncertainty was overwhelming for someone so young. But Ed O'Neill refused to let fear take over. During this crisis, Ed personally took it upon himself to calm the younger cast members. He sat down with Christina and David Faustino, who played Bud Bundy, and told them that no matter what happened, they had created something special. He told them that the show might survive or it might not, but either way, they should be proud of what they had accomplished together. Also did something else that has rarely been discussed. He contacted the press himself. He gave interviews defending the show, but more importantly, defending the young people who worked on it. He made sure that in every conversation about the controversy, someone was speaking up for his TV kids. He refused to let them become collateral damage in a culture war. The boycott ultimately backfired in spectacular fashion. All the negative attention made people curious about this show they had never watched. Ratings actually went up, way up. The publicity that was supposed to destroy Married with Children ended up making it more popular than ever before. It was one of the most ironic turns in television history. But Christina has revealed that what she remembers most from that terrifying time was not the ratings. It was not the victory over the boycott. What she remembers most is Ed O'Neill standing by her side when everything seemed like it was falling apart. She remembers him being steady when everyone else was panicking. She remembers him showing her what it means to handle a crisis with grace and composure. The cast started wearing the boycott like a badge of honor. They would joke about it on set. They would reference it in interviews with pride. What had been meant to shame them had instead united them. They had been tested by fire and emerged stronger than ever. That experience bonded the cast together in ways that audiences never fully understood. They had faced potential destruction as a team, and they had come out the other side stronger. But surviving that crisis together would prove to be just practice for what Christina and Ed would face decades later. When Married with Children ended in 1997, it did not end the way anyone expected. There was no grand finale. There was no emotional goodbye episode. There was no closure for the characters or for the actors who had played them for over a decade. The show was simply cancelled, and that was that. One day they were filming new episodes, and the next day they were not. For 11 years, Ed and Christina had worked together almost every single day. They had celebrated birthdays together. They had watched each other grow and change. They had created hundreds of episodes of television that would go on to influence countless other shows. And then suddenly, it was over. Christina has spoken about how strange that period was. One day you have this entire family around you. You have a routine. You have a place to go every morning. You have people who know you better than almost anyone else in your life. Then, the next day, all of that just stops. The set gets torn down. Everyone goes their separate ways. The family you spent your formative years with suddenly scatters to the wind. The ending left a void that none of them were prepared for. They had been part of something special, something that had changed television, and now it was gone. There was no graduation ceremony. There was no celebration of what they had accomplished. Hollywood had simply moved on to the next thing. But what Christina has revealed is that she and Ed never truly separated. Even after the show ended, they maintained their connection. They would call each other. They would meet for meals. Ed would check in on her career, offering advice when she asked for it and support even when she did not. The TV father and daughter relationship had become something very real. Christina went on to have a remarkable career after Married with Children. She appeared in films like The Sweetest Thing and Anchorman. She starred in television shows such as Samantha Who and Dead to Me. She won awards and earned critical acclaim. Through all of it, Ed was watching. He was proud of her in the way a father is proud of his daughter, not because he took credit for her success, but because he had seen her grow from a teenager into a formidable actress. Ed also found tremendous success after the show. He went on to star in Modern Family, one of the most beloved sitcoms of its era. He won multiple awards and became even more famous than he had been as Al Bundy. Yet in interviews, when people would ask him about his career highlights, he would often bring up Christina. He would talk about watching her become the woman she is today. The lack of a proper ending to Married with Children has haunted both of them over the years. There have been countless discussions about doing a reunion. Every few years, the topic would come up in interviews. Fans would petition for it. Networks would express interest. But for various reasons, it never happened. Until recently, most people assumed that a reunion was simply a matter of scheduling and logistics. They believed that eventually the stars would align and the Bundy family would return to television. But then something happened that changed everything and made the possibility of a traditional reunion far more difficult. On August 10, 2021, Christina Applegate posted something on social media that stunned the world. She announced that she had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, often known as MS. The disease had been discovered a few months earlier while she was filming the final season of her Netflix series Dead to Me. In an instant, everything changed. Multiple sclerosis is a chronic disease that affects the central nervous system. It can cause problems with mobility, balance, vision, and cognitive function. There is currently no cure. Symptoms can be managed, but the disease does not go away. For Christina, the diagnosis meant that her entire life had to be restructured from the ground up. She now uses a cane to walk. She has spoken openly about experiencing cognitive fog that makes certain tasks difficult. She has had to accept that her body has changed in ways she never expected. The woman who once played one of television's most recognizable teenage characters now struggles with movements that many people take for granted. Every day presents new challenges. The diagnosis was not only physical, it was deeply emotional. Christina has been honest about the grief she has experienced. Grief for the life she thought she would have, grief for the future she had imagined, and grief for the version of herself that existed before the diagnosis. She has had to mourn while still living, which is one of the most difficult experiences a person can endure. What Christina revealed about Ed O'Neill's response to her diagnosis shows the true depth of their relationship. When Ed learned about her illness, he immediately reached out. He did not simply send a brief text or make a short phone call. He made certain Christina knew that he was there for her. He expressed his love and support in ways that went far beyond what former co-workers typically do. The entire Married with Children cast rallied around Christina. Katie Seagal, who played Peggy Bundy, has been especially vocal about supporting Christina during this difficult period. David Faustino has shared messages of love and encouragement, while Amanda Burse, who portrayed Marcy, has also shown her support. But according to Christina, it was Ed's response that meant the most to her. He was still being her protector after all these years.